You are listening to Reforming the Ozarks, a podcast serving the local church in Southwest Missouri with biblical teaching and Reformed theology. To learn more about our churches, visit ctkjoplin.com and gospelsgf.org.
Welcome to another episode of Reforming the Ozarks. It's good to be back with you. My name is Levi Bakerink. I'm the pastor of Christ the King here in Joplin, Missouri, and I have Dustin with me, as always. Dustin, how are you doing?
I'm great, Levi. We had a good Labor Day weekend. Dustin Ray, pastor of Gospel Fellowship here in Springfield, Missouri, church planting here in Springfield. But we had a good Labor Day weekend. My father-in-law was in from California. We went to Wonders of Wildlife, did some Bass Pro visiting and shopping, which was exciting. And then I worked on Monday, but yesterday we went floating down the James River in Galena, Missouri, and it was super fun. A little stressful at times with the little kids on the river, but no, it was super fun. Caught some fish, and I think I caught no kidding. So I mean, Bass Pro inspired, right? Mm-hmm. I was wearing the hat, but I think I caught my first two. Abigail caught her first largemouth bass. Not that it was a large fish; it wasn't. It was small, and you can't tell. And it was. And I caught mine as well. So it was a big day for the Ray fishing family. So
sounds very successful. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. How about y'all?
Yeah, we not a super exciting Labor Day weekend for us. I did make our new administrator work on Labor Day, Julia. She's just started for us, and so excited. She's going to do a great job. She's already doing a great job. But I felt bad just telling her, hey, do you want your first day to be Labor Day? But that's kind of just how it was going to have to work out. But this weekend we got Jess's mom's coming in, and she'll be with us this weekend, and she'll be hanging out with our 6-month-old, just about to be 6 months. So we were talking a little bit before too that he's getting close to crawling, and we are not ready for that. Just in general, like our house is not prepared to have a kid that's able to be mobile. So we got to figure that out pretty quickly. I'd say.
Got to baby-proof the house for sure.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. But it's good to be back with you and doing another episode. It's been a couple weeks. You were doing some traveling last week, and so we dropped that first episode, and then we disappeared for a little bit, but we're back.
That's right.
Be recording this episode, and what we wanted to do for this for today is talk about our churches in particular, and our churches in a little more depth than what we did last time. Last time, our first episode, we talked about our own personal experiences and journeys into the Reformed faith and into the Presbyterian Church. Today, what we wanted to do is talk about our particular churches that we're at. And so I'm at Christ the King in Joplin, and Dustin, like he says, he's planting the church, Gospel Fellowship in Springfield. So that's what we're going to do today. And then we're going to, the plan is to try to record these once a week on Wednesdays. Hopefully we'll get those done, and then they'll drop on Thursdays. And we hope that this will be a way to keep everybody up to date on what's going on in our churches, and then also be talking about all kinds of different topics from Bible and doctrine to theology to church history to whatever might be helpful for us and for our people. So
yeah,
that's the game plan. But we're glad to be here today, and I can go ahead and start. I'll tell us a bit about Christ the King, and then I'll turn it over to you, Dustin. You can tell us about Gospel Fellowship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're listening to this, if you're one of our CTKers, I don't know, we need to think of a name. What do we call ourselves? If you're one of us here at Christ the King, hope to just give you some updates on what's going on. But a lot of exciting stuff happening this fall in Christ the King. We are just starting officer training, and that has really just begun. So we just finished the nomination period. So if you're listening to this, if you're not familiar with the process in our churches, the way we do it, we have a nomination period where the elders, which we call the session, which is just the board of elders, the group of elders in our church, they'll open up nominations when necessary. And then all the members of the church are able to nominate other members in the church that they think they would like to serve as an elder or a deacon. And then once we get those nominations, then we go through the training process. And that's what we're getting ready to do now. Our nominations closed September 1st. Thank you to everybody who sent in a nomination. We got a lot of great ones. They're all great. Talked to all those guys already. And we have a good group of guys who are going to start this process here this month. And we're going to start with going through the biblical qualifications for office for elder and deacon, that we see those in 1 Timothy 3 and in Titus chapter 1. And we're going to talk about what those qualifications, what they look like, what they mean. We're going to talk with those candidates, with their wives, and just see if they're if this is something that they're ready to do at this stage of life. There's all kinds of reasons why. Sometimes life is just too busy. There's things going on. You got a lot of young kids, can make it hard to find the time necessary to commit to serving in the office. So that's one of the big things we're doing right now. We're doing this first phase of the training. So I haven't mentioned any names because we're doing this first phase, and that will be through the month of September. And during this phase is when we're going to ask everybody, we're going to be working through each of those candidates, talking with them. And this will be the time where we can kind of decide, is this the right time, or, are you ready to do this? We're going to discern that kind of calling, the inward calling. And then, there's a possibility that maybe during this first month, they'll say, this maybe isn't the right time for me. And that's totally okay. And then after that, though, in October at some point, we'll start the second phase of our officer training, which will go for a handful of months. And that's when we're going to do the bulk of training on Bible content, on theology, on practical ministry, on church government, those kinds of things. So just as a announcement of sorts to our guys, I'll be reaching out to you sometime. We're recording on Wednesday. I'll reach out to you sometime today. We'll get some of that first stuff scheduled. So just a heads up on that. We're going to be reading through a lot of awesome books. I was just talking to Dustin about one of these books we're reading for the elders, The Shepherd Leader. Really excited to go through this with our guys, and be a really helpful book talking about what it means to be an elder in Jesus' church, and to be a shepherd, an under shepherd of the Good Shepherd. So yeah, Timothy Whitmer's The Shepherd Leader. We're going to be reading that. Yeah. So we're doing that officer training. Really excited for that. And we hope to bring on some new ruling elders and some new deacons here in the next several months. Sometime next year, spring will probably be when we finalize that, and then we're ready to officially elect and install and ordain those guys. So we're excited for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. What do you think what are you most excited about with officer training, either in the going through the process of finding new potential officers, or in maybe even a year from now? What's exciting about all of that?
Yeah, it's humbling. It's so cool to see how God's working in the lives of our people, and in these men that he's raising up to serve his church in this way. And so that's really encouraging to me. It's exciting to see people have that desire and have that drive, and to see some of that inward call that they have confirmed by the external call. So talk to these guys and say, hey, you've been nominated. People in our church have seen you, they know you, they've seen how you're serving, and they want to and they want you to serve them now in this way, in this official ordained capacity, which is something I love about our church, and something that we're going to talk about probably next week. We'll talk about officers in more detail, because it's really, really helpful to know, of course. But one of the things I love about our church is, these officers, they're nominated by the people and they're elected by the people, by the congregation. So I'm not as pastor, we're not as our group of elders, we're not just handpicking people and saying, okay, now you're going to be a part of it, now you're going to be a part of it, but the people are making that decision. And what we do as the session is we do examine them, and we do make that determination whether or not candidates are qualified or equipped or able to stand for election. But we don't make that final determination. In fact, all we say is, okay, the congregation has nominated these men. We've examined these men, and we find no reason why they could not be an elder or a deacon. And then present those names back to the congregation and say, okay, now it's up to you guys. Do you want these men now to serve you in this way? And then we have that meeting where we take the vote, and the people say, yes, we want these men to serve as elders. We're going to submit to them out of love. And they are going to love us in return as shepherds over our souls. And the same for the deacons. We're going to elect these men because they are going to be outstanding servants of Christ, to model Christ-like love and mercy to us, and we are electing them to serve our church in this way. So just the whole process, I guess, I'm really excited about.
Dude, you're teasing us with what we're talking about next week, man. So
yeah, I got to save. I got to hold back a little bit.
Dude. Oh man, we could talk for weeks on this. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Yeah,
I'm really excited, and I'm excited to be working through the material. And like I said, for this book in particular, is going to be so helpful, I think, for us. So yeah, a lot to be excited about with that. Along with that, though, so a couple other announcements as far as what's going on at Christ the King. One sad one exciting one. The sad one of our ruling elders, Cody Chapman, he's going to be moving. He and his wife, they're moving later this month. He's accepted a call to go to a church it's Westminster Church in South Carolina, Clinton, South Carolina, another PCA church. He's going to be, I can't remember now if it's the assistant pastor or associate pastor, but he's going to do family and youth and discipleship stuff there. He's been one of our ruling elders at Christ the King, and he served as intern and pastoral resident, and he's done so much for our church. Mm-hmm. And so we're saying goodbye to them. Their last Sunday with us is going to be the 15th. We're going to have a meal after the service and celebrate them and wish them well and send them on their way. There's, just as far as announcements, I guess, for our people, make sure you have that on your calendar. We are still determining the location. So we might be changing the location. We might not have it at the church building. We might be having it somewhere else. We'll make sure we let you know as soon as we figure that out. But so we're bringing in some new officers over the next several months. We'll be doing that, but we're also saying goodbye to one of our ruling elders, and we're going to miss him a lot. So
yeah, for sure. Cody's been a huge part of Christ King for a long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We could talk about him forever too. So yeah, we'll have a Cody episode sometime.
Yes.
We'll bring him on, and we'll see how he's doing out in South Carolina.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So that's the sad announcement. We have another happy or exciting one, and this is the last thing I'll share about Christ the King. But in October, on the 13th, that's a Sunday right after service. This is also a slight date change, but October 13th, on that Sunday, we're going to celebrate 20 years since Christ the King in its super infant form first started. So before Christ the King was even Christ the King church plant in Joplin, there was the Reformed Fellowship of Joplin. And they were a small group of like-minded believers who were doing Bible studies and hanging out together and dreaming and praying for a Reformed church here in the area. And they started meeting over 20 years ago. And 20 years, almost to the day, on October 10th, 2004, they had their first worship service in the evening. It was a Thursday evening, and they had a handful of people come to that. One of the teaching elders and pastors in our presbytery, Chris Miller, he preached at that service. And so it's really cool to see just how for the past 20 years, God has been working in this area and in these through this group of people to then eventually it became Christ the King. And in 2007 became a mission church officially. And then 3 years, so 3 years after this Reformed Fellowship started, we have Christ the King church plant. And then 3 years after that, 2010, we have Christ the King becomes a particular church, which means it has its own elders now and is no longer a church plant. So we are just so blown away by God's grace. And even myself thinking about it, God's been planning Christ the King for a lot longer than I've ever even thought about stuff like that. He's been working and doing the work in this church for a lot longer than a lot of us have, and a lot longer than I have. He's the one building his church. We're going to celebrate that October 13th on that Sunday, and so we're looking forward to that. So yeah, I'm just blown away. God is so good. The church is wonderful, and it's really a privilege to be a part of it and to get to serve Christ and serve our people in this way. So that's what's going on with Christ the King. That's our Christ the King update.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're in the area, if you please come join us for service and join us for the October 13th, and that's going to be a really awesome time. So I hope you check that out. But Dustin, what's going on with Gospel Fellowship over in Springfield?
Well, man, I just love thinking about 20 years ago, people began meeting in Joplin for the Reformed Fellowship. And man, I pray so much that, in 20 years, we will Gospel Fellowship. I mean, we're not starting today, we're not, we are looking, and I'll talk more about this in just a minute, but we are looking to be scheduling our first worship service, probably very, 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 very soon. But we began meeting at the beginning of the summer for Bible study. I've been meeting with folks who are now in our core group. I've been meeting with them for, here and there for about a year now. But man, I pray that we have in 20 years we're planting another church, and we're not only established like Christ the King is, but we're also planting another church by then, if not hopefully in maybe 2 churches by that time. Who knows, but it's slow going, but it's just exciting. I remember one of your members brought the bulletin, a photocopy of the bulletin from that Sunday, and it was just really exciting to see where things are now. So yeah, but anyway, we're really excited at Gospel Fellowship about things that we've got, the Lord's got going on for us. So I wanted to just share, we don't have worship services yet, but we're working toward that. But there's a few things that are really guiding us as our vision and our values. I think one of the most important things that we understand to be the most important value that we have is that we are a simple means of grace church, which means, and that's something that we'll talk more about in the future, what that means. But to be a church that's governed by the simple means of grace means that we focus on the ministry of the word, particularly the preaching of the word, the administration of the sacraments, and prayer. Those are our primary focus in guiding what we do, why we do it, and we're excited about those things. We could spend a lot of time talking about all of the ministry training that we did in seminary, and that we're doing ongoing for sure. And that's very important. But when we make the main things, we're on the right course. And so much of our efforts, much of what we will look like, will be governed by these core values, the simple means of grace. So, we're excited about that. And so that's one of our primary values at this point, and we're going to be articulating that more and more. But also, because that's one of our main value, being a church of the simple means of grace, that means that our mission and vision are really determined by that. And so part of the two aspects of our mission and vision are that we want to disciple all of our folks through the Westminster Standards. Another highfalutin word would be we want to catechize all of our folks through the Westminster Standards, primarily in our regular use, the Westminster Shorter Catechism. And that's not because we worship the ground that John Calvin walked on. It's not that we make pilgrimages to Westminster Abbey, although maybe we could have a podcast going there. That would be fine, but we do so because we value the Westminster Standards, the Westminster Confession, the larger and shorter catechisms. We value those things because we believe that they faithfully teach the truths of Scripture. And we can talk about this more even maybe next week. We as a church, not just Gospel Fellowship, not just Christ the King, but as the Presbyterian Church in America, we have said these truths faithfully teach the script. These statements faithfully teach the Scriptures. Mm-hmm. And so we want to submit to them as faithful teachers of Scripture. And so anyway, we want to, as a part of our mission and vision, we want to see the Westminster Standards, again, the Confession, larger, shorter catechisms. We want them to be a part of the life of the church, every worship service, every Sunday anyway, and a part of our daily lives, our use. So one of the things that I've done, and I don't know if I have an example here. So one of the things I've done is I've made a little reading guide for my larger and shorter catechism readings. And so
you're gonna have to send that to me. Sorry.
I'll definitely. Well, yeah. I need to tweak it. What's that?
Well, we're going to use that for. Our guys are going to be reading through it. So, yeah.
So,
save me some work.
I need to wrap it up here because I can go along here. But one of the things I've done is I've just broken up the larger and shorter catechisms into 30 readings, so you can read it in a month, right?
Yep.
The Westminster Confession of Faith has 33 chapters. Months tend to range from 28 to 31 days, and so you can roughly read a chapter a day of the Westminster Confession and read that 12 times a year, and it takes about 5 minutes. It can take much longer if you're studying them, but if you're just reading through them to just kind of get the content into your mind and heart, it doesn't take that long. And so anyway, but what we want to see in Gospel Fellowship is the Westminster Standards used in Sunday worship, in Sunday school, for all ages, not just children but also adults for sure. And then in family worship, we want we want to train our families for participating in family worship together. And this is something that has a a lot of folks have a lot of thoughts on this, but one of the things that we've done is we just want to make family worship doable.
Yeah.
We don't want to trivialize or make something vain, something small and light and meaningless. But we also don't want to make it so large and burdensome that the perfect makes an enemy out of good enough, right? So a lot of times what I'll tell families is just spend 45 seconds praying the Lord's Prayer and reading Psalm 23. And hey, you've done family worship.
Yeah.
You've not checked a box like, oh, okay, God will love me now. That's not how grace works, and we'll talk more about that as well. But
Right.
we've done something good. Because of God's love for us and of the wonderful benefits he's given us in his word and in our family, we've spent some time worshiping him in a way where it's like, yeah, I could do this most days of the week for the next 2 weeks, right? And then we can maybe read something else. We can add in something, we've done different things where we've spent, 20 minutes doing family worship, or longer. We've got young kids. We've got 3 kids, 10 and under. Anyway, lots of things. But we want the Westminster standards to be used in our families. And so that's part of our mission and vision. So lots more we could say there too. But I want to just say a little bit more about some of the folks that have been coming alongside us at Gospel Fellowship. So we've got 4 families in our core group. One of those families is ours. And these are some of the most kind people you'll ever meet. And I pray that as you're watching this podcast, you'll hear about Gospel Fellowship, come and meet our folks, and so some of the folks in our podcast, in our core group, have been a part of the PCA their whole lives, or a lot of their lives. And some of our folks have been a part of the PCA for a very short period of time. This is their only experience in the PCA, and that's great. Their only exposure to the Reformed faith, but they're wonderful people. And I'll say this too: some of the our folks, all of our folks in our core group, have impacted me in a meaningful way. They've prayed for us. They've asked, how can we encourage you? How can we take care of you? Their prayers and encouragement have been just powerful to us. I can remember specific examples of people praying for us, encouraging us, that have just blown us away. So we're excited about the people that God has brought to Gospel Fellowship so far. So yeah, come and meet them. You know what I mean? They're good people. So, and then I want to wrap up talking about Gospel Fellowship this week with some of the things that are going on. Levi and I were talking earlier about ways that we can be thinking about our podcast, and one of the things we want to do is walk through some of the basics of the Reformed faith, right? Helping people who aren't in Reformed churches or aren't a part of the Reformed faith to know what it is. And so we'll talk through the 5 solas. We'll talk through the 5 points of Calvinism. We'll talk through Reformed polity and government, all those really important things. But another way what this podcast can do is it's kind of like an open window into the lives and churches of 2 PCA pastors, and seeing, hey, this is what's going on in their world right now. In October, we'll be going to Presbytery meeting, and we'll be talking about that. And we've got something else planned for that month as well. So a couple of things that are going on in my world right now for Gospel Fellowship. This week, I am doing some fundraising, talking with an organization about supporting what we're doing. We're ongoing fundraising. We've got a lot of outside support, and we're excited about that. And we're continuing to build that support. And we'll talk more about this in the future. But right now, I mentioned this, I think, last time. I'm bivocational. I own Queen City Biblical Counseling. and that's supporting my family right now as well as the church doing that. But I'm going to be working at spending more time doing church planting and less time in the counseling office, and so working at fundraising helps do that. So working on budgets, working on plans for the future, which is exciting, and also kind of guessing at things, and it's a little nebulous, but that's how budgets work to a degree. I'm meeting with folks in our core group this week to finalize their membership in the Gospel Fellowship, which is really exciting because it just means I get to hear about the stories of coming to faith. I get to hear about their baptism, ask questions about their interests and abilities in serving the church. It's just a real sweet time to do that. And then we are finalizing plans for our worship space. So we're in talks with a local church who is very generously allowing us to share space with them for a very small cost. Has just a fantastic space for us. I am so excited. We'll do some on-site recording or something about what we're doing. And so we're finalizing space plans for that. I couldn't be more thrilled with how the Lord has provided for us in that way. So lots of really good things going on right now at Gospel Fellowship.
That's awesome. God is good. Yeah, it's been so cool to see everything that you're doing and to see how things are coming together. You're putting your shoulder to the plow, but God is causing the growth. He's causing the increase. He's the one that's doing the work.
Yeah,
it's really cool to see, and we're so thankful. I'm thankful. I know our guys at Christ the King, our church, we're thankful to be a part of that, what you're doing as well. So, really excited to see what happens over the next several weeks and months. Yeah. And we'll be keeping people updated through this podcast for sure. So, if you need to, if you'd like to find us online, you can do that, ctkjoplin.com or gospelsgf.org. You can send us an email to reformingtheozarks@gmail.com. Next week, we're hoping to do these weekly. That's our goal. So next week, we're going to record again on Wednesday. We'll plan to release it on Thursday. We'll talk about officers, talk about elders and deacons in more depth, just because we're doing that at Christ the King, and you're going to be doing that in Gospel Fellowship. That's part of planting a church, is raising up those men who would be elders and come alongside you in the work of shepherding that new church out there. So we'll talk more about that, and then we'll take it from there and talk about all kinds of different things. So we're excited. Dustin, is there anything else we need to mention before we hop off here?
Man, no, I think you've hit it on the head. We're plowing forward. So we're going to give the people what they want. You know what I mean? The content. We're excited about what the Lord has done. Levi and I spent some time in prayer before we began recording, and we're thankful for what the Lord is doing. We pray that this podcast is a benefit to the folks in our churches, the folks in Southwest Missouri whom the Lord is drawing to Himself to a Reformed church. So we're thankful.
Yes, yeah, we are. So we hope that this episode gave you a little bit more of a picture of what's going on in our churches. If you're already plugged into our church, we hope that this was helpful to you to understand what we're doing, and also across both of these churches, we're part of the same church ultimately, and we're really excited to see what God's going to do. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Reforming the Ozarks. We would love to hear from you. You can reach us at reformingtheozarks@gmail.com. To learn more about our churches, visit ctkjoplin.com and gospelsgf.org. If you would like to partner with us in planting confessional and reformed churches right here in the Ozarks, go to gospelsgf.org and click on Make a Donation.